once again, we're here with Brent Biglow.
Hello.
Brent Biglow 2.0.
With a nice full beard.
With a nice full beard. I believe he had the same full beard last time, if I do recall.
Yeah. The beard, but it just looks so much. I don't know.
I don't know. This is just a face of neglect, really.
I love that too,
because
it's that equal parts of laziness and patience. That's what you could call it patience, but it's not.
It's laziness.
There's an element of laziness in it regardless.
I'm going to start answering that question with just patience.
Patience.
I usually say neglect, but I think you have struck something there.
Yeah, it's all how you frame it in life, right? It's like it's the optimist or the pessimist. So if you frame it as it's patience, then you're optimistic at the finish line. Yes, Brent Biglow.
Hello.
Builder of design-forward products and custom furniture. I said check out the shop at 290 McDermott most Thursdays during Wanted Interruptions. I'm assuming.
That's coming back.
Okay.
But I recently moved my living quarters, and I was on a trip, and I have sort of shuffled some things around with the business and stuff, so that was kind of on a hiatus. And I don't know when it's coming back, but I think I will be doing the first Fridays in the Exchange for April. And then that'll be sort of my return to open house something at my wood shop.
Cool.
But I haven't been doing that for a couple months just because of life cropping up.
It happens to the best of us.
And me.
Yeah.
You said you were on a trip? Where'd you go?
I went to Punta Cana, Dominican Republic.
Nice.
Like 3 weeks ago. And that was just great. It was great.
Get away from our terrible winter here. Sorry, let's keep it positive.
See, we're getting pessimistic all of a sudden. Just down talk.
Patience. Winter is almost gone.
I'm not going to lie. I'm really done with this winter. It's been longer than it needed to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that the slogan for the last season of Game of Thrones? Winter's almost over. I am excited for it.
Winter is going.
Winter is going away, and then we're going to have like 6 different spin-off shows that we do because of this. I'm sure that'll happen too.
I'm more interested in the spin-off shows. I think like that will give some new creative minds some room to grow, and I'm excited to see what that is, honestly.
So I did want to get sort of an update on how Biglow Woodcraft has progressed since our last podcast almost a year ago, and the launch of the website and everything too.
Yeah, I guess it is almost a year, hey?
Yeah. Well, we're March, so April, May, 10 months?
10 months. Wow, I have done very little in 10 months. No, it's been great. I am unable to keep up with my custom orders because I launched that new website within weeks of doing a podcast. Little frog in my throat today.
Just gotta get the dad clear of the throat.
Yeah. I launched a new website within weeks of doing this show, and I find the biggest change is that I have this like pretty professional portfolio that's live online at all times. It's got a nice it's got a bunch of different pages, and they all highlight different aspects of my ethos and everything. And then there's a connect page that I can sort of track the traffic of and all the emails I receive through that. And so I'm actually able to see the numbers of what is converting to people emailing me asking about custom work. And it's like slowly been growing over the last 10 months. Cool. So it's nice to see that like consistency in my name getting out there as somebody who can build a custom piece or whatever people need. And then of course we have the online shop, which is a whole nother experience, and I'm going to be sort of continuously ramping that up now, and I'm planning on making some wholesale deals with some local shops.
Nice.
And sort of pushing my products out that way and doing packaging and like really building that side of things in the next year. It's a little crazy because I'm spread a little thin across a few too many aspects of this business. It feels like this business is like made for three at this point, and I still am only one. And so I'm hoping also in the next few months to maybe figure out a place for a full-time staffer and start the process of finding that person. But I know that process is going to take a while. So I do have an assistant right now, and that's been great. She is a passionate, like, person who's interested in learning the skill, and so she has been sort of taking on various projects where I can pay her piecemeal, like, okay, I got this in, and she's like, okay, well, I have this much time for whatever the next couple of months. So we sort of just go through things one thing at a time, and she gets to learn, and I get a little bit of help with projects, but it's not very we don't have a set schedule, and so I'm not quite at the point where I can say, okay, I have 40 hours to spend on somebody right now. Mm-hmm. But I want to be there very soon because I have the work for it. I just need to sort of get my ducks in a row with the business side of that.
What would go in? So in hiring someone, what would go into that? Because they would have to like meet some sort of expectations on your end.
Yeah, so it's kind of a tricky problem to solve because ideally I'd like somebody who is quite competent in a wood shop, but somebody like that is worth a lot, and I can't necessarily be paying somebody $25 an hour. Like I'm a small business. I can't really afford a high wage for somebody, so it needs to be somebody like my current assistant Ava, who is driven and wants to learn and picks up these skills quite quickly, and sort of in exchange for lesser pay is taking home also the value of that education that they can gain in the wood shop. It's kind of tricky because usually most people that are interested and passionate about something like that already have an avenue that they're going down, and the people who might be applying to work for me, it might be seen as more of a temporary thing while they're, waiting to go to university or something. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about the specifics of what that hire will be, but I know that it's going to be a tricky position to fill. And it might be my current assistant, but she's also just got a lot on her plate. So
one of the things I was going to say is I'm so thankful to have Jayse along for the ride because it's like...
Because I'm sick?
Well, not because of that. Because I think that our skills align so well with this endeavor specifically, but it's got to be different when it's like you're doing the same thing, you're coming into the same wood shop, and it's like you got to find projects, but also see the value in bringing somebody in, but like mentor them, but you have all these other tasks that have to be done as well. So it's just managing that must be really interesting.
Yeah, so in the last 3 years, I've had a number of people just come in and help me with the odd projects. Like I've got a few friends who have each worked for me for a few months on and off whenever there has been a need, which has been great because in the beginning of the business, it's hard to know how busy you're going to be. And sometimes you get hit pretty hard, and sometimes you are just kind of hoping you get a job for the next week. So in those times, having these friends come in, it's always been an interesting learning experience for me to try and fill their time and to try and find things within each project where it's like, okay, they are competent on this tool and this tool and this tool, and they do a great job here. So I'll get them doing this for the first couple hours, and then I can be doing this and sort of prepping their afternoon for them, and then shift them over to this in the afternoon, and et cetera, et cetera. That has been a big learning experience. And at times, the agreement has been an hourly wage. And so in those times, it's a little stressful. And sometimes I have to trust one of them to do something that they have maybe just learned. And it's just how the time works out for the day. And yeah, it's so bringing all of that forward into whatever the first sort of official full-time staffer hire is, whenever that is. That could be 6 months or 10 months away. Next time I'm on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll keep measuring it in those increments. Yeah. How many podcasts away is it? Yeah.
It's between a half and a one podcast away.
Yeah. We have there's I guess a new term now. We got like fortnight and we got podcast.
Yeah. That's the new measure.
That's interesting though, because it's such an underrated ability for leaders to be able to put people in positions to succeed for their skill level. And sometimes it is that, okay, I think it's maybe one of the most difficult things for especially creative entrepreneurs to put people in a position of like, here, do this, and I trust your ability to do this.
Yeah.
And in line with the goals that you have for that piece or for the business or anything. So it's sort of like finding that person that aligns with the vision is probably better than finding the one with the skills that align with doing the thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to find somebody that is in line with all of my ideologies and whatever I have behind this business, and also kind of a blank slate, so that I can pick somebody up and sort of teach them my bad habits, if you will. Like the weird things that I do with different tools to get my desired results in my desired style. It's kind of important. And it's important to think at this point about giving up control of certain things and letting somebody else bring their own ideas into something. And that's going to be very hard. But if I can't allow staff members to do that, then they're not going to be as fulfilled in the job. And if they're not fulfilled, they're maybe not giving it their all. And like building a workplace is a whole new topic that creeps into my mind every once in a while. And it's like, what does that look like? What does the culture of Biglow Woodcraft look like when it goes from one person to two? Because 1 to 2 is the biggest change. 2 to 3, whatever, that'll be easier, I think.
Well, you look at percentages. It's if 1 to 2 is 50%.
Yeah.
And then you're 33, and then you're 25, and then it's that type of growth and that type of effect. I don't think people actually put enough emphasis on personality types and that harmony and that melding that way. And actually, I did want to dive into that too, because you talked about your style as being Japanese and focused, so the woodworking style being Japanese and focused on harmony in terms of using different materials, finishing, and what was the other thing? And even the tools that you use as being part of that harmonious process. So I wanted to learn about that because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so there are
good pop.
different tools from different parts of the world, and the Japanese tools are often geared towards pulling towards you, and the American tools are geared towards pushing away from you. And that simple difference, in my opinion, is huge. When you're pulling a tool towards you, you have more control. And when you're pushing it away, like the tool is on the other side of your hands. It's like outside your body, essentially. Whereas when you're pulling it, it's kind of inside your bubble, and you have more control. And so like a Japanese pull saw, the blades are oriented to cut on the pull instead of the push. At any rate, it makes more sense to me as a way to keep everything aligned and more precise. And so there's that aspect to, I'm just digging myself a hole with this sentence.
No, it's okay.
I should add a comma or something at least.
I think it's the ability to think like out loud while you're trying to think of the experience of using these different tools. It's hard to be in multiple places at once. I know that that's one of my struggles, because I was talking to Amy last time, was like, some people talk to think and some people
Yeah.
think to talk, and I'm definitely the talk out loud, and maybe I'll go on this random tangent and then come back and hopefully there's some kind of point. But
Yeah.
I'll get lost on the path every once in a while. Like,
Let me just get this sentence
Yeah.
started, and hopefully by the time I'm in the middle of it, I'll figure out what the end is going to sound
hopefully my
like.
verbal diarrhea comes out and somebody can take something from it. But yeah.
In terms of the, do you know a lot about the history of like woodworking? It seems like you do.
Yes and no. I mean, like I study different styles and designers through history. I know a little bit more about like the mid-century and like the time starting at World War One and the time between the two wars, and then after World War Two, and how all that kind of influenced furniture design. And like one of my favorite designers, Hans Wegner, and he kind of like came up in the like late 50s and 60s and then 70s, and has just designed all of these like very beautiful utilitarian Scandinavian, so not Japanese, but the Scandinavian and the Japanese sort of style of building is similar in a number of ways, because they do try and orient the natural materials in a way where they're sort of facilitating a new form rather than trying to like bash it into, you know, whatever they want it to be. Like it's an understanding and respect for the material you're working with versus like, let's just tear a tree down and cut it into boards and stick them together in whatever shape we want.
So it's funny because I just think of what my style would be if that were my process. And I'm like, if I look at my own personality, it would be like the smash and whatever and like smash things together.
Yeah.
So is it more of do you find an art form then? The way of pulling things together and like making it a new form, as opposed to it's like a little bit more brutish, for lack of a better term, to smash things together?
Yeah. And I also want to be clear, like I am no expert at all, right? Like I'm just studying this as I can in my spare time because I'm interested in it. And it's just like to try and understand all of these influential designers and design theories, etc., through the years is such a task, but like it's so fulfilling to learn about and understand this like bringing a natural material into a space that you take care of and creating a new form with it and respecting it along the way is like exactly how I want to build things versus, you know, treating it like I'm just picking up a big load of lumber and like, I don't know. I haven't really had a chance to create the nice website copy for this yet. I even address this on my website. I say that it's a hard thing to put into words, but despite this, I'm still trying, or something like that.
Yeah.
On my about page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of even the way that you approach woodworking, and it's been this sort of evolution even in culture lately. The girl's name's Mary Kondo, and I think she has a TV show. I believe she's Japanese as well, and believes in this, not minimalist, but it's like if the object doesn't bring you joy, you should get rid of it. And also that sort of that cleansingness of like you don't need like clutter and things out, like you just need simplistic. And I wanted to know if that was sort of your style and what you thought of that as an evolution in society too.
Yeah, I take a lot of issue with all the stuff that we have, honestly. We have so much stuff. And this Marie Kondo show, Tidying Up on Netflix, seen maybe half of them. And I think it's great. I think it's great that there is a little bit of popularity around this idea that we have so much stuff and we don't need it and we shouldn't have bought it in the first place. That's the problem. Like, it's great to tidy up and get rid of things, but I've seen some reports too that this show has crippled some of the volunteer-based donation centers around North America.
Whoa, actually?
Yeah. So everyone sees this new show. let's purge. Nothing in my house brings me joy because I've spent the last 20 years buying things without thinking. And like, me too, by the way, I'm not judging. I'm 100% involved in this problem as well. But let's all bring our stuff in, and then there are these donation centers that are run by volunteers, and they have a finite amount of space inside the building and outside the building, and we're filling it up. There's no more. So it's like, I mean, it's great that people are donating and not just sending things to landfills, but that's happening too. It's so back to your original thing. This whole idea of minimalism is another big interest of mine, and a lot of my products are trying in their own way to drive that point home as well, and like help facilitate a minimalist life. And so, like, one of the newer ones, the Slot Block Mini, it's a little block that sits on the desk. It's very simple. It has a slot for your phone or your iPad, a couple slots for paper goods, like maybe some mail that you have to deal with, or like art that you want to sit up, and then a nice curved piece in the front for your writing utensil. And so in my mind, like, looking at my desk, there's my phone, and then there was a jar with pens and pencils and highlighters. And who is highlighting? Like, not me. I don't know if you guys are highlighting, but there's a lot of tools in that jar that I was not using. It's like, I only need one writing utensil. So I actually was inspired also by Tiny Feast. They have, I don't know if you guys know about Tiny Feast, but it's a great little store in the Exchange District that has very high-end stationery and writing utensils, and they also sell locally made goods, and like journals and cool cards. And it's a great store. And all these cool writing utensils sit in these wood blocks with like nice little curved spots. So they're very like purposefully put in front of you in like a nice way. And so I put one of those in the front of the Slot Block Mini, and now I have this little block on my desk, and it has everything I need. And if something doesn't fit in this little block, then I think to myself, do I need it? Probably not. So I put it away in a drawer, or I, take it to a donation center, and hopefully there's a volunteer who will accept it.
No, it's great to have like those purposeful. It's funny. I was thinking of like when you have that favorite pen and you just like you use that and it brings you joy. Like, it's nice to have those things, but like that minimalist is so important. The other side was I kind of wanted to mention that it's cool that it's sort of your mind creates your reality, but also I want to say this in terms of like your space, right? Like, I think of my place and I'm like, if it's super cluttered or there's things out or it's not clean, and this hasn't been the case for my entire life. Like, I was definitely a messy kid, a messy teen, and like I would have to be told multiple times to clean up my room, and I probably still wouldn't do a great job. But now I have this opinion that it's like, if your place is cluttered or if your space is cluttered, so is your mind. So it's you have to clean up that, and it actually, in process of doing that, it helps clear your own mind, and it helps you engage with that space even better. So I kind of like that thought of having the things that are important in front of you and having things that you care about. Like, why buy the 30 Bic pens that are going to run out and that you're going to like forget everywhere, as opposed to that one pen that, maybe you paid $20 for, but you're going to reuse it. You're going to like purposefully put the ink in it, and you care about that item. And I think that's like, I think it's something that you touch upon on your, I believe is your op-ed piece, where it's like, okay, it's like it's the consumerist, like, not reusable goods. It's just like, throw everything out at the end of the day. Who cares about it? But like, why not have more items that we care about, that we have that positive energy towards, and surround ourselves with those?
And you touched on something here, like the pen is a perfect, like, small example that can be scaled to everything big and small that we have. Like, you can buy a 20 pack of Bic pens and think very little about each one of them and leave them wherever, and just have this feeling like there's more. There's more. So this one doesn't matter because there's more. Whereas if you spend a little bit more, you get one nice pen that you care more about. And it's like, what about your coffee table? You can go and buy a coffee table for $20 from IKEA. And again,
I'm guilty of that. And I really don't care about it.
And exactly. I also am guilty of that. Like at times it's important to be able to just furnish a space.
Yeah.
And like IKEA is a better option than lots if you're wanting to do that. They're pretty good on sustainability practices and like pushing this idea forward of a green life or whatever. Obviously they're not, pristine in that way because they're still filling the world with $20 coffee tables, but that's okay. That's okay there. But anyway, if you spend a little bit more on a coffee table that you care about or anything, that pen example is perfect and it can be applied to almost anything.
Yeah, that pen example just kind of, it's silly, but it's true. As a personal trainer, I always have a pen in my pocket and it tends to fall out like training clients and that, and I'll lose. And there's literally, if you walk around the windowsills of Good Life Keniston, there's pens all over the place.
Yeah.
All over the place. And I'm in that same mentality as those big pens. I'm like, I'll just go downstairs and grab another one in the middle of clients. And I go through maybe like 3 or 4 pens a day sometimes because I lose them all.
But then you find them 2 days later.
When I started my personal development journal, I decided to buy like a $16 pen. And I will not write in this with one of those big pens. I refuse to. And I remember the one time I lost that pen, I was losing my mind. I was like tearing my place apart looking for it. And it was on my desk the entire time. But I was just like, there's more emphasis on that pen and that I needed it to write in this journal. And it made me realize too that I don't need all these other pens. And that's what I used to do too. I'd buy those packs of pens and just whatever. If they stop working or if I lose them, it didn't matter.
I think that's another great idea is like finding a simple rule for yourself that you can set and follow. Like you have this nice journal and you're going to decide, okay, I'm only going to write in this journal with this nice pen.
Yeah.
It's like, you're writing on Post-it notes or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But then you come back to this one rule and it sort of starts to reframe your mind and you start thinking about your big pens differently and your nice pen differently. And that's kind of, again, coming back to the slot block mini, I've now set this rule for myself. If it doesn't fit in this little block, then I think about it and I realize I don't need it out. So my desk is keyboard, mouse, slot block mini. That's it. And it's so nice. It's like I feel respected by my stuff because I'm respecting them. Like I sit down at my desk and my desk is staring back at me, ready for whatever I want to put on it,
Yeah, I think the idea behind like being less materialistic in that way too is it's great that people are donating things away, and that's awesome. That can go towards the more needy. Mm-hmm. But it's to eventually get to a frame of mind where you don't have to buy it to begin with, right?
Yeah.
To buy that stuff to begin with, so we shouldn't, right? Because you don't want to fill those landfills that like those donations, like that's still stuff that fills the world that unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I think as a young adult, and I think it's harder than ever before to make that transition to like living with your parents and being at home to like living on your own or buying a house. Like it's hard to make that jump because it's like either you're making minimum wage or you're progressing your way up, hopefully. Mm-hmm. I mean, I say that and I feel lucky that I've had those opportunities because some people don't get afforded those opportunities. But I think that it's in terms of like the things that we own, it's both function and feeling. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, and yet, like you need certain things, right? Like it's like I want a coffee table or I need a couch, and sometimes it's like either you inherit those things or you have to find a way to get those things, and it's like maybe it's the $100 Kijiji, and you hope to God that it's actually what it looks like on the Kijiji website. But it's like, yeah, some things you have to buy out of function. Like I did it last year where I had to buy almost an entire wardrobe because I lost 20 pounds. And it was like, okay, I'm going to Winners and I'm just buying the things that fit and that I can make work. And so it's like, no, I'm not going to buy a full wardrobe of $100, $200 items. It's like you can sort of accumulate those as you go, or maybe replace these items. So there is a strange like balance of, you have to be responsible, right? Like am I going to buy that $200 shirt and then gain that weight back, and then it doesn't, then it like, that puts me out? Or do I buy 10 items that work for that time? So it's hard, that quantity quality sort of juxtaposition. But
and so this is exactly what I am trying to push with my business, is just that thought process. Like, you went through this change and you needed to replace your whole wardrobe, and I think a lot of people are just like, oh crap, I need to buy clothes, and then they just buy a bunch of clothes without really thinking about how long things are going to last, what type of materials these clothes are going to be made of, and all that stuff. Just having that thought process of, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit and make sort of a set of basics for myself that I can get by with, and then slowly accumulate the more important pieces. And I think like that's what the op-ed on my website is about. It's about considering what we're buying and considering how long it's going to last, and comparing the price in a long-term way instead of just in that moment. Like, value is something that needs to be stretched over your entire life, because a lot of products can last your entire life. And we've become very conditioned to not even think about that, because a lot of things only last a couple years now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next new thing, right? Like, that's commercialism at its finest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the phones are a prime example of that. Every year you want that new, better phone, water resistant phone, faster charging, like wireless charging. There's always some new feature.
Yeah, but it's funny because new features, but there hasn't really been a big evolution in phones in like 10 years. It's just like the camera's a little bit better. The charger's
screen's
a little
bigger.
better.
They get bigger and
bigger, and then
that's the big
smaller
thing.
again, and then bigger.
And the next thing is the
small.
foldable phones are coming back, right? With the foldable screens
back the
now.
Nokia
bendable
brick.
screens.
Yeah.
Well, the Nokia Razr is coming back. The Razr 4 now with foldable screen, right? So there's always something. Phones are especially bad for it, and I'm bad for it too. I upgrade my phone every year. Like, I'm on a 2-year contract, and I still upgrade my phone every year. That's
Contracts are made to be re-signed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I always want the better camera on the phone, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've always put that. Like, I have the P20 Pro, which has 3 cameras on it now. It's like, when is enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking about cameras, so I did want to talk about supportive networks and the people that help you. And so I've seen the amazing pictures on your website of all the projects, and especially even so the products that you sell on your online store, which is biglowwoodcraft.com. Biglow Woodcraft. I always like accidentally put in an E. Anyways, so don't do that.
Don't put in an E.
Don't put in an E ever. But no, so you have beautiful pictures of a bunch of your custom work that you've done and all the products in the store, and your brother helps you out with those. But I also wanted to know, just in terms of having a supportive partner and family, and how that helps you sort of be able to follow this, dare I say, dream and business of yours of woodworking.
Yeah, that is a huge part of this. I have a lot of support in a lot of different corners of the world and the city. And like, my brother is a great photographer, and so he's taken 98% of the photos that I share. That was kind of a game changer in the beginning, is when I would first complete some of my nicer pieces, I'd schedule a photo shoot with him and, think and know that my piece is very nice, but all the pictures I could get of it were meh. And then we'd do the photo shoot, and then later that day he'd send me an email with the photos, and it's like, oh my goodness, I am a woodworker. Like, wow. And so that sort of helped build confidence in the beginning, like seeing my work represented on a screen so well. It was like a confidence booster for sure. My girlfriend Joanna helps me out, keeps my brain from exploding in the evening, and she does some sanding and little wood shop things here and there when she has the time. And then my brother's friend, Dave Bach, is a great graphic designer who has sort of helped me come up with a design language and a brand around Biglow Woodcraft and around sustainability. And it's sort of like the idea behind that, I'll just touch on quickly, is it's like the time back when we weren't buying plastic everything and we were buying things that were made in the city that we live in, and things were made of wood and metal, and you got things on manila folder color things, and there was brass eyelets and black ink with red pen, and all those elements come together in my print media and the graphic design, and there's like little fake perforation lines, and you can see some of the cropping marks on some of the edges of the cards, and so it's also supposed to sort of create this feel of the 50s and 60s before everything became plastic and terrible. And we had more choices that were inherently good for the earth to be made, whereas now we have very little choices that are good for the earth.
I guess it was the 50s when plastic became a thing, right? And then Tupperware took off first, and then everything else started being made out of plastic.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot to be said around that too, because like single-use plastics are now the big thing, and everybody's raging about straws, and like that's great for sure. We should be using stainless steel straws and whatever else. Like, what happened to waxed paper straws though, by the way?
Wait, was that ever a thing?
I don't know those.
Yeah, like my mom's parents would have this little jar with a little lid thing, and you'd lift it up and it'd like fan all the straws out for you, and they were the waxed paper straws.
I remember that. Yeah,
they were colored, and yeah, maybe those can come back.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of, so it's almost our whole world became more plastic at that time. Like you think of Hollywood and celebrities and fake tits and like all sorts of things that evolved throughout this time, and it's kind of cool that you put that much emphasis on kind of a return to what was genuine or authentic. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that I really admire about you, is like how real you are towards the process, but just as a person too, how real you are to yourself. And so I wanted to know what you thought of like the current state of like being genuine and authentic, and how you stay genuine and authentic in this plastic world.
That is very hard. I'm sitting here. I brought this McDonald's coffee cup with me. I have been making quite an effort to avoid these lately, but I recently have encountered the problem where if I want to pick up coffee and I brought my mug with me, an experience where I went through the drive-thru and I said, could I get coffee in my own mug? And they said, yeah. And I come up to the window and I hand them my mug, and they pour my coffee out of a cup into my mug. And I'm like, well, so you're still wasting the cup.
The purpose, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we can't stir it in your mug. And I said, well, why can't you stir it in my mug? It's a sanitation issue. Well, can't you sanitize the spoon or something between stirrings? Like I'm out of touch with that. I don't really understand it. Anyway, back to your original question. It's very difficult. You have to practice what you preach. I use a lot of my own products. Obviously, I make prototypes and stuff like that, and those end up with me and my friends and family. And it's frustrating, it's to say the least, because you can't really talk about it too much. You can't go to parties and be the guy who's trying to get everyone to stop using takeout containers at restaurants. You can't be that guy. You can kind of pepper it in here and there, and like hopefully people take note that I'm wearing a shirt that I've had for like 6 years that I got at Value Village.
Nice.
And like ask me about it, and then I can just like drop a tiny little hint that this is a great shirt that is going to last me a long time.
For 6 years, it looks really good.
Right?
It looks almost new.
Like this is an anomaly in my wardrobe, but it's like I have a few things like that where it's like I've done it. I've had this thing for like 6 years. I'm gonna keep having it. You know?
That pair of underwear that you just can't throw out. Just joking, but.
And yeah, so it's hard and it's frustrating. People don't want to talk about it. People don't want to hear about it. And so I think a lot about just peppering those little hints and ideas into my day-to-day conversations, into my Instagram posts. Instagram is a whole nother ballgame. I really take issue with the posting your products regardless every couple days with some preloaded thing that you wrote 20 of at the beginning of the month. I think it's fine. I think people are doing their own thing, building their businesses how they want and being successful. And if that works for you, that's fine. I'm not judging. I just think Instagram has become this perpetual loop of doctored content that people
It's a
are
good
just
word for it, doctored. Very much so, yeah.
It's beyond curation. Like it's not people curating from their what's it called, the camera roll on your phone. It's not like they're scrolling through and finding good moments that they naturally took a picture of. You know, they went out of their way to frame a shot just for Instagram, just for whatever quirky little thing that they said. And I get it. I do that too. Obviously, I'm trying to build a brand. I'm trying to take nice photos that will get noticed, and I'm trying to come up with quirky little things to say. But I'm also trying to acknowledge that I'm perpetuating this problem, and I'm actively trying to at least help people to realize that what they're seeing is just nonsense at sometimes. You know, you're scrolling through ads. You're scrolling through ads that you decided to follow. Even some of your friends, even like my personal account is just my own advertisements that I'm sending out to my friends on the regular. Yeah. It's a very strange thing that we're all involved in now. And it's a really frustrating thing to take part in because it's so valuable to build a business with.
It's actually an interesting way to look at it that we use something like Instagram to advertise our lives to other people.
Mm-hmm. We really do. You're advertising yourself to your friends saying like, I'm an interesting guy for these reasons, so we should continue being friends. And it's like, that's a really crappy way to look at it, I gather, but it's kind of a wake-up call for myself at least. And we talked about this last or 10 months ago, one podcast ago, we talked about this.
One podcast.
And
official measurement.
I don't know that we'll ever stop talking about it. You know what I mean? Like there isn't going to be,
because I think this is just the beginning, honestly, of like social media and things like Instagram. There are going to be others, and they're going to be, I can't even fathom what kind of features they're going to be with it. It blows my mind already. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, that's okay. It's true. We are just at the beginning. Who knows what the next social media thing is going to be? But I can tell you right now, it's not going to be responsibly built around not taking too much of your time and attention. It's definitely not. It's going to be engineered to take even more of our attention and not think twice about it. And I think we're seeing a little bit of a push back in general. You see the odd headline about this stuff, the attention economy and stuff like that, but it's not going away. We're humans. We have this human nature to just get these little dopamine rushes, and people are going to find ways to exploit that. And if there's some great marketing piece that says, oh no, we're not exploiting that, it's just marketing. So we'll see how that goes. But I guess back to the very beginning of this, interacting in a world like this as a business owner, trying to promote this idea of a considered life, it's just hard and frustrating. And it's difficult to open that dialogue with everyone, including myself. The sort of living your own life and framing it for social media and the effects that's having. Like I wonder if there's a good book out there, if anybody in the world,
I'm sure it's on the
one
way.
of your millions of fans could maybe reach out and say, hey, this is a good book on this.
And that's actually something that I'm struggling with too, is I'm writing constantly. Like, well, I say constantly, but I try and write at least half an hour to an hour a day. And it's not just journal entries. It's like, I want to write a personal development style book to help people, especially people that have went through different struggles in their life, similar to mine, because you're going through your own experience, but something that can help people live a more fulfilled life. But then I feel fraudulent while I write sometimes, because I'm like, am I being honest to the human experience? Even the personal development writers that I follow and that I've read books from, it's like, it's this expectation that life can be perfect and that it's going to stay there. I don't think a lot of them do a great job on going like, no, it's coming in waves, and you might hit the top for a little while, but it's inevitable that you're going to go through pain, you're going to go through loss, you're going to go through maybe heartbreak or anything, right? We're going to go through experiences in life, and you learn from those and you can build up even stronger. But how do you write a personal development book that's not just like, hey, great job, just go get him, Tiger, and it's a difficult thing to just like to put words on paper, but also be like, no, but you're human, you're going to go through these difficult times. And how do we better equip people to deal with those? And who's going to want to read about that when you can read that your life will be perfect?
Yeah.
There's some guys that I just can't follow, like a Tony Robbins that is like, get rich and powerful, and I'm charismatic and on stage, and life will be amazing. But you see interviews with him, it's like he seems kind of detached, and he's reached a level of fame that probably cuts him off from the regular person. So how do we arm regular people to be better equipped to handle the stresses and vulnerabilities and pains of life?
That's a very interesting topic to me. How do you arm people
and maybe
to be better prepared for life? Because it's true. You see online every day that everybody's life is perfect, and it's not, and that's fine. And that's the thing. Like, you need to go through struggles and hardships, and you're going to your whole life. There's always going to be something crappy around the corner, but there's also going to be a lot of great things around the corner. And if you can be okay with both, like that's important. And we're so detached from that idea right now. I think we're following these beautiful curated feeds and just thinking, wow, my life is terrible. And it's something that's been talked about so much. And if somebody's interested in this topic, they've probably already seen so many TED Talks or whatever. This is such a common thing in this new attention economy that we've been living through for the last 10 years. So, like, I don't feel like I am the right one to solve that problem, or even that it's my responsibility, but I do think it's like my responsibility to pitch in to whatever solutions I'm aware of and just sort of do my part. And I've built a very small following on Instagram, and I like to sort of poke at these ideas with my posts, and just like in the subtext, there's usually something like, hey, what are we doing on Instagram today? Oh, nothing? Okay. Not that blunt, but that's kind of the subtext that I go for sometimes.
Yeah, I like your sarcastic or witty poking fun at certain things. Like, I like your post for that, because you are authentic in that you'll make fun of your own post within your post. So and then your product is in there too, but it's just like, it's these quirky remarks, and so like that's you being you. And so that's why I do see you as being so genuine. But I think this even comes back to, while you were talking, I was thinking of my aunt coming to me and saying that this life is either a comedy or a tragedy, and you get to pick. And it really comes back to one of the first things we were talking about, is you can be optimistic or you can be pessimistic. And maybe you fluctuate throughout your life, but that's what I seek to be, is like authentic, real, but with that hint of hope or optimism mixed in. And I know that I hit those pits and I hit those dark times, and like I think it's inevitable, but I always grasp that little bit of yin and the yang and yang and the yin, you know, like when you're in those dark spaces, it's like hold on to that little bit of light, know that it's going to get better. Time heals a lot of things, or at least, you know, those wounds turn into scars and you can find a way to live with them better. But it's
scars are cool.
Scars are badass, right? But I just think it's important, and I think that I'm glad that there's people that are willing to think this way and talk this way. But it is funny because I even have that same realization as you, is like, you're not going to most parties and bringing this up as like, you know, you're usually just talking about surface level things. You're not talking about, oh, should we really be using plastic cups? Oh, do we need straws in this? Oh, should we be like, you know,
it's interesting in
this?
A party setting. Sometimes you will find somebody where you're having this conversation. Like, I like to think of it like you're at a party and there's, you know, a few conversations going on at any given time, and there's like a few different circles of people, right? And you're in a circle of maybe 8 people, let's say, and you're having this nice conversation, and then suddenly there's maybe 2 or 3 of those people that want to keep diving deeper on, you know, some of the problems of the world and talk about that. And then that circle shrinks almost immediately. And I find myself like an hour later, I look up from where I am in the party and I'm like, oh, I've been talking to these 2 people and everyone else has been avoiding us.
That's great. That's actually one of my favorite things, to just get engulfed in conversation that feels even, it's like, oh, this is an amazing conversation and time is flying by. You're in a flow of conversation.
It's funny to think that everyone else is kind of like, oh, they're over there talking about turtles. Like,
but sometimes people don't feel that they have something to contribute to the conversation, or maybe they don't think that way, and so they distance themselves a bit. But I think that's fine. You're allowed to connect with some people over a certain subject and not others, and that's why parties can be fun and be that place to have those.
It's just the perfect example for, like, again, something small that scales very well. It seems to me that there are like small groups of people who are wanting to learn about this stuff and impact their lives with change in all kinds of ways. And then as the sort of intensity of that dream reduces, more and more people are involved in whatever that message is. And by the time you're at zero care, it's like, it's just, it's the mindset, like the group of people that is wanting to make changes is slowly growing, and it feels like more so lately, and that is encouraging, I guess.
Yep. And I think one of the things that I believe in is that, well, we always say start with the self, and then it's maybe your small group, and then to me it's like the focus should be on that first, but it's like whatever change you have or whatever you put out into the world, it should be scalable. It should be, you should believe in it enough to be like, if the whole world were to do this, I would be okay with that. Or maybe not the whole world, but if the majority did this, I would believe in that. And obviously that brings in philosophy and morality and all sorts of different things that you can consider in that. But to me, I guess it aligns with my spiritual views, which are just be a positive person or be a good person, whatever that means to you. And yes, for some people it's religion. For some people they can find it through morality, or they can find it through philosophy, or even all sorts of different ways, right? But it's as long as you have that focus, and I think that that's something we lack, is just like, how do we be better for ourselves, for others, and for the world, the universe, beyond whatever you want to go into after that. But there's those different stages of the being, but it's scalable. I think it's...
I like that thought, though. If everybody did this, and if everybody in the world did this, would we be better off? If everybody in the world owned this thing that I'm about to build, would we be better off? Like that's a nice way to frame a decision to be made. Like, should this exist, I guess? And that's a question I have to ask myself when I'm designing a product. Is this a redundancy, or is this helping the bigger picture, right? Because I don't want to create something that will end up being waste.
I think it's the same question on the customer's end too when they buy it, right? Is this something that I need?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but I like that. Is if everybody in the world did this, would we be better off?
I don't think I can take full credit for that. I believe it's a Jordan Peterson thing. So
That's okay. He's a pretty smart guy.
He's a pretty smart guy. I think it's
Pretty
interesting
popular.
because I even look at the dark sides of people I admire in a certain sense. So the carnivore diet becoming a really popular thing, and he's a big proponent of that, and his daughter. And I'm like, I don't know if we should be. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I eat a lot of meat and more eggs than I care to admit. But it's like, should we be like, if everybody were on the carnivore diet, would we be a better planet? And I can say definitely
I'm gonna go
not.
with no.
So
Well,
that's even in his own estimation.
I think that goes for any diet, though. I don't think it suits everybody, right? I don't think you can say the whole world should be on this one diet. Everyone should be on keto. Everyone should be on paleo.
That's a good point.
Different bodies
important to have variation.
respond differently, and obviously the carnivore diet edges on a very extreme side of that because it is 100% meat based, right? And if it works for some people, great. But to those people who want to do it, edge on the side of caution when doing it, and get your blood checked.
Yeah, there's sort of this extremism, especially in the fitness industry, of do this is the best thing for you, and use this product and this supplement, and you're going to get great results. And it's like, okay, but let's worry about, okay, be active, get enough rest, eat healthy. Yeah, you can sort of, when you get far enough into it, you can start to toy maybe with these other things, but it's like, we should be working to a baseline of health and fitness and probably blood markers before we're ever trying to optimize. I think maybe those things are for either extreme circumstances, which in his daughter's case is depression and all sorts of autoimmune dysfunction and thing. And so she's found this as not a cure, but as an aid to that. And so it's like, okay, maybe in extreme circumstances, yes, but for the majority of people, this is probably not the best thing to be a proponent, like to be pushing upon the public, the mass public.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, most people aren't allergic to almost every food like Jordan's daughter is.
True. Yeah, this is a random side tangent.
Yes.
Jordan Peterson gets everybody fired.
But yeah,
up,
coming back around, if it's something that you can truly say that is better, or everyone should have this, or everyone should be doing this, then yeah.
Well, so I ran into you at the gym last week, and it was nice to just catch up, sort of while you were, I believe, starting a workout. I was just finishing up. So
I was in the middle and just not sweating at all.
I don't know what that's like. Just jokes. But so what prompted that? Because I know before you were sort of not doing it very often, and now you're trying to make that a little bit of a habit. So what's changed?
A couple things. There has been a lot of thinking about mortality lately with just some unfortunate things happening in my family that we don't have to get into, but just thinking about, you really get one body and you have one life to live. And if you're going to spend your life in a body that doesn't work very well, that's not good. And so that's kind of my new frame of mind. Like, I have a back pain issue that happened from a hockey accident in February 2017. So over 2 years ago. And so I've been dealing with this back issue, and I've seen all kinds of people about it and got all these exercises and tried all these different things. And the bottom line is, I just need to get in shape and be fit and like build all the muscles around that damaged part of my body. And then I'll have a body that works better for the rest of my life.
Have you tried yoga?
I have. I'm just getting into this a little bit now. When we were away, we were doing yoga on the beach. I mentioned that to you on the beach. I didn't mention that to you on the beach. I mentioned that to you.
I wish you mentioned that to me on the beach. That means I would have had to be there.
And that that's sort of a new idea in my life that I haven't really considered, like the stretching that I've been doing for the past 2 years, like stretching like a madman, trying to target all these muscles and just make my body work better. Yoga kind of encompasses all of those, and it's brought to you in a more complete package, I guess, where I can maybe just take a class and stretch my whole body rather than these targeted stretches, which I'll still be doing. But yeah, I haven't taken a class yet in Winnipeg, but I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it's something that, it's funny because I've seen life without yoga, like pre-yoga and post-yoga is definitely some periods in terms of physical health in my life. Playing football, it was always lift super heavy, run sprints, and you should be stretching, but I probably neglected to stretch the majority, if not almost 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I'd warm up really well, but the cool down and the stretching after, you probably should be doing 10 minutes of it, and I would do 0. So it really hit me when I started working in an office job after I finished university and sitting in a chair every day. And it was like I had back pain for the first time in my life, and it was chronic. It didn't go away. It was, 3 weeks out of the month I would have back pain. And so I was like, let's do something proactive as you're stretching. I like it. So it was doing something proactive about it. And so I put my ego aside a little bit, which you sometimes have to do, and walked into my first yoga class. And it took about 3 months, I would say, to work through some of the pains and maybe realign some things. And I don't necessarily believe all that much in chiro. I know there are probably people yelling at me at their computer screen.
That's polarizing.
But I just like the fact that you can do something active about maybe your alignment, your hip alignment, stretch your muscles, you're more bondable. And I know that my body, I've rarely, if ever, have back pain since. Maybe the day after doing heavy legs or something.
That's a great example, and you both said some very important things I was very happy to hear about as a trainer.
Trainer Jayse, dropping knowledge here.
But when people work desk jobs or just in general, unless you've broken something, dislocated something, or herniated a disc in some way, usually it's not a joint problem. For the most part, a lot of people complain about things like back pain, don't have joint issues. Your spine is completely fine. It's that you're got so used to doing something in such a way that your mind forgot how to engage the proper muscles. So you have these other muscles that are overworking all the time, and that's where your pain's coming from. And so things like making those muscles stronger, or the supporting muscles and learning how to re-engage and reactivate those muscles can take away that pain. And then going on to Riley's point, and then it took 3 months you said before you started to realize that the pain was starting to go away there?
Yeah, I would say 3 months and it was pretty much gone.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, patience. It's not going to happen right away. Especially for people who have been sitting at a desk all the time and you're having things like back pain or shoulder pain even, it's not going to go away tomorrow. You've been sitting at a desk for years. Why would it go away tomorrow?
Right.
Your brain's going to fight that tooth and nail.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is it usually takes twice as long as you'd think.
Yeah.
Like
that is a good
in
rule
everything, in building something and whatever. And it probably, in that, like, think of how many years you put into it. It's like it probably should take twice as long to fix completely, but if you take the right steps, 6 months from now, a year from now, you can be night and day difference in whatever. I don't want to say yoga is a cure-all or fitness is a cure-all, but it's certainly going to help you.
Sure, yeah. There's always room for fitness for sure. And if it is a joint or something issue, then you just got to go on the side of caution, obviously, when you're doing certain things that you're not making that joint issue worse.
He's trying to hide it for a little bit. Hey, Fresca. Not your grandma's drink anymore.
but also still your grandma's drink.
But exercise is super important in any facet of life, and our bodies were not made to sit in chairs all day. That's all. That's it.
So 2 things about this. One, everything takes twice as long. I think that is always true, and I've been doing what I've been doing for 3 years. Still true. still assume something is going to take X amount of time and it takes twice as long. But I've learned to kind of embrace that, because if you're more realistic about how long something is going to take, you're maybe not going to get started, or you're going to be a little more pessimistic about it. But if you're optimistic and thinking, oh, this is only going to take an hour, then you get started and you do it. And then after 2 hours of work, it's like, well, it took 2 hours, but it's done and I did do it. So like, it's kind of been a reframing in my mind to be okay with that ridiculous underestimation sometimes. Like, it's only going to take an hour, so I'm going to start.
Yeah. It's sometimes more important to get the ball rolling than it is
Exactly.
to really worry about how long that ball's going to have to roll for. Yeah. Really dumb analogy, but whatever, wisdom.
It works.
Put that on your Instagram.
And then the other thing I was going to say is having a little bit of back pain can be so detrimental to me getting motivated in the morning and getting to the wood shop. I don't have to be there at any time. I could take a day off. I could just not show up. I could do whatever. And if I have a little bit of back pain or a medium amount of back pain, that decision is even harder to make. And even once I'm there, it's always tempting to stop and take a break or whatever. Like, having that little thing gnawing at my brain that is back pain is probably costing me a lot of time and money. And so I'm also really motivated to get rid of that for that reason.
How difficult is that? It's something that I've actually talked to recently to other business owners, and even like on their own. So how difficult is that self-motivation, just to to not show up at too late and not to get behind on things? Like, how difficult is it to stay regimented when it's you running the business and you keeping yourself accountable every day?
Honestly, it's one of the hardest things for me. I luckily don't deviate from due dates. Like, if I put something due for somebody on a Friday, like I might, days in advance say, hey, can we actually do, Monday or whatever. But once I set a final time that I'm going to have something done by, I don't miss that. And so what happens is I underestimate how long things are going to take, and then I end up crunching and spending 12, 14 hours at the shop 3 days in a row getting something finished. And then I burn myself out completely. And then I decide that I've earned a day sleeping in and working through some emails and, just generally taking it easy. And so my business often is very, very much a fluctuation between working a little and working way too much and burning myself out. And so another part of getting the business in line and ready to hire somebody is creating a routine that, regardless of when a due date is, I'm still just working regular hours and balancing work and life better than I have been the last 3 years, because that's one of the biggest struggles for me now, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's most creative types, but I think it's also how people approach work too. It's like there are, I don't want to say procrastinators, but it's like some people like the pressure. Like,
yeah,
it's
I do.
I think personally I like having that too, where it's like, if you're going to tell me it's due tomorrow, it'll be done today for tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. If you tell me I have 2 weeks, I'm going to wait a week and a half to start it. And then it's like, probably that crunch is going to be last minute. So if it seems more urgent, but then it would be stressful to live in that like constantly urgent life. So it is like, you have to deal with the fluxes even in that. Is like, maybe you have downtime, be as productive as you can, but maybe enjoy that a little bit, because that pressure and that stress, or like that deadline is going to come. So it's like, you really just have to ride those waves too.
Yeah. And actually, you say ride those waves. I remember one podcast ago, we were talking about that.
I love that word. This measurement's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Like finding those motivational waves and just riding them and deciding, wow, I'm doing great work right now. I'm not going to be home for dinner. You know, it's time to work because my brain is in it, and finding those times and embracing them. And I still like that idea, but I'm starting to sort of change my mind on it a little bit and think, yes, I'm still going to ride those motivational waves, but I'm also going to try a little harder to produce those waves, which is not something I've really tried too hard to do because I haven't really had a problem with motivation overall. Like, I'm always working, I'm always busy. Even when I'm home, I get an idea, I go to my computer, I spend like 2 hours, and then I'm like, where did the time go? It's gone. And then I spend another 2 hours on this new idea. And it's like, so I don't worry that I'm not working hard enough. I just worry that I'm not working on the right things because I can't spend all my time doing graphic design for something that will be seen by 2 people in the next week when I have a project that's due in the next week that, you know, will actually make me money.
Yeah.
You know, I've spent a lot of time building out the business branding and the website and the print media and all that stuff. And I'm really glad I did it. I think I've done great work and I've built a great foundation, but I do wish I'd spent a little more of that time just making money, you know?
Yeah. Making those priorities or that priority list of like, okay, this project has to be done. And then it's tough though, because you don't necessarily choose when you get struck by a creative bout or anything. So it's like, how do you be the creative type, but also, you know, handle the business and make sure everything's done? But I think it's like, yeah, I think, you know, as a business owner, as like when it's time to crunch and make sure you finish that project. But
well, another thing I just thought of is I'm making pieces often that are new to me entirely. I design something for somebody to suit their specific needs. And at the time of designing it with them, I'm doing, you know, live sketching and whatever. And then they sort of agree on a direction. And then in the next few days, I'll go to my computer and do a 3D rendering of it. And all the while, it's sort of sitting in my mind as a problem to solve. And there's a couple of joints or like knowing how to orient the wood in certain spots of the project so that the wood movement won't tear itself apart in a few years or something. And all those little intricacies, I often kind of think of those on the fly as I go. And so even once I've started building the project, I might, you know, mill the wood, plane it and joint it and get a couple of panels glued up and stuff, and then not really want to go to the next step quite yet because, you know, the way I want to put this certain joint in a corner or something, it makes sense and I think it's good, but I just want to let it percolate for another day. And then the next day I come in and like, oh, of course, this is a great way to do it. And then I do that. And so I guess that whole process has sort of been built into the way I work. And I'm super fortunate to have so many projects on the go that I can pick one up for, you know, most of the morning one day and progress it to a certain point and then go to this other one that I had this idea to, you know, more efficiently do this one component of and do that in the afternoon. And then, so that's great. I'm very fortunate and I'm very appreciative of all the projects for all the different people that are currently sitting on my workbench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is great to have. I think that's even something I personally value in either work that I'm doing or even the podcast is like having a lot of different components that you can sink energy into and like multifaceted, because it's like I'm not somebody that can take a project and go A, B, C, D. You know, I have to be like A, then Z, then like jump around and actually work on different things, because I would get bored if I were just progressing one product, finish, like start to finish, whatever it is. I did want to talk about the gift and the curse of being a creative type. I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Because, and I'll say that personally, if I'm not creating, I feel just empty, and then I get miserable, and like life becomes, it's a little bit of a depression, but life just is much shittier when I'm not creating something that I believe in. So I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
I think you really mentioned the curse right there. It's like I find it very hard to just decompress and enjoy doing nothing. And sometimes that's what I need, but it's not what I want. And I think that's okay. It's okay to get an idea when you feel like you should be relaxing and just like work a little bit more. But you really have to know your limits, and you have to know how much is too much and stop yourself from, quote unquote, wasting a whole evening trying out a new idea in whatever capacity. And I'd say the curse is, it's not being satisfied unless you're doing something that you believe in, I guess.
I may have said this before, but I read it in Stephen King's On Writing book, and he said he switched his life at a certain point. He was an alcoholic and I believe got into drugs. I can't remember if it was heroin or something. So like really like bad things. Mm-hmm. And that was, he was still writing, and he wrote, I don't know if it was The Shining or one of his really good books during that time. So he was still able to function as a writer, but his life was falling apart. He wasn't a great parent to his kids. He wasn't a great husband. Life was kind of coming apart at the seams. Mm-hmm. And so he said the biggest shift is his desk used to be in the middle of the room and everything revolved around writing. So his life, everything circled around writing, and that's where his creative process went. That's where sort of he believed he needed to be. And it wasn't until he shifted that desk into the corner of the room and went, no, all of life happens, and that attributes to writing.
That's interesting.
The creative component is a part of life, not the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so important for like any creative type to know. And I think that that's something that I've even struggled with, is like, I want to do these million things, and I'm going to go all in on all of them. And then all of a sudden you wake up 3 months later and you're like, but I haven't lived. Like I haven't seen my family very much. I haven't went out and either, found a girlfriend or like spent time with them, depending. And then it's like, yeah, and maybe my physical health or I haven't worked out enough, whatever it is. It's like, I've been in those situations where it's been like, I'm all in on this, and it takes too much from you, and then you feel empty after. Yeah. And then it's only in being like, no, let's live life first. Let's have a little bit of fun along the way, but let's make sure to keep focused and keep building on these things. And I think that I'm still finding it. I'm still finding that balance, and I don't know if it's ever. It's sort of that. Do we ever get there in life? Mm-hmm. Like that, or do you just have those moments of accomplishment or satisfaction or fulfillment along the way, and that's sort of what keeps you going and keeps you developing. And I think that is what it is. But you can certainly find better balance than you've had. You can, or at least strive towards it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just sort of making things better and not necessarily hoping things are going to, improve drastically or anything. Just take a step in the right direction and keep going. I don't know that the struggles that I have right now are ever going to go away, and that's totally fine. I just want to deal with them a little bit better. I want to find a better balance between working on the things that directly make me money and working on the things that don't, and working on nothing and just enjoying free time, spending it with whoever. And yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
Well said.
So we're hitting the latter stages. I'll get back to some of the things that we prepared, but I know you mentioned some books last time, like Simon Sinek's Start With Why. But what books have made the biggest impact on you recently?
Oh,
I'll bring up something else too. So I got inspired by one of your coffee table books about design, because I'm sort of imagining this dream studio space with the half wall. And it was funny because I came to you and I was like, in one of my creative, maybe manic creative episodes, for lack of a better term. But I was like, I want this to happen. And then I sort of sat on your couch and made you play amateur psychologist for me, which I tend to do from time to time.
A role that I tend to play from time to time.
And I very much appreciate that and enjoy that your door's open for that type of interaction. But it was funny because it happened to be a day that the shop was open, as it would be. And so people were coming up and through, and I'm like, then I start going through the coffee table book, and I'm like, this is what I imagine, like this little half wall. And so I took pictures on my phone and even
I
followed
remember
up.
that. Was that One Good Chair?
Oh, I can't remember the title of the book, but it got me really interested in architecture for about a day. And then I'm like, okay, I have the dream home that I can't afford for about 10, 20 years. So, or even maybe my entire life. So who knows? Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 books that I'll mention. One Good Chair is the book you're talking about, I'm pretty
Sweet.
sure. It's Hans Wegner, the designer I brought up earlier. And it's a great, huge book that goes through his entire design career, and every other page is some interesting story about how he was, working as he has sort of a funny story that I follow some of in my own life, and obviously not some of. And he's just a great designer from Scandinavia that was an apprentice cabinet maker and then went to design school. I think it's called the School of Arts and Crafts, which is funny.
I wish I could go to the School of Arts.
It's like a prestigious design school that he attended. I guess it would have been late 50s. Don't take my word for any of this. And then it's basically about his pursuit for one good chair, like, because the chair is fundamentally like the most personal piece of furniture. It holds you. It holds a person, one person, and in the way that it does that, in the way that it's built, it's a very personal, like, important piece of furniture. And it's sort of known in the design community that you have to design a chair, and you have to have a chair that you made and designed. And like it, I don't know how to put this into better words, but you get what I'm getting towards.
Well, it's like finding your spirit chair. You got to design the chair that reflects you and holds you perfectly and like is comfortable and
it's kind of an interesting problem to solve too, because there isn't really one good chair, because we as humans, like, we're not even really meant to sit. Right. We're meant to stand and lie down and walk and squat. We're not meant to sit. And so we're creating this product to take a load off. And there's easy chairs and there's office chairs and there's bar stools, and it's like none of them are really perfect. So is there even one good chair? Who knows?
It's the pursuit of
I love that. I think that's so cool.
The chair you can spend the rest of your life in.
Yeah.
You never have to get up again.
Yeah, and the ones that the chairs that you do spend the rest of your life in need like motor assist exits. It's just a silly thing that we all sit all the time. We're not supposed to sit, but we do.
But here we are in front of microphones sitting. Yeah. So you may have the most unique way of tackling your tasks with Post-it notes. Mm-hmm. I think you're the only one to this day and that does that. But I think that's super creative. So are there any other apps or organizational techniques that you use to keep projects going or life organized?
I've been getting into Excel. Well, not Excel, actually. Google Sheets, which is
pretty much the same
free
thing.
Excel.
Yeah.
I've been getting into that a little more. I've created some spreadsheets that have my products and their SKUs and their costs and margins and everything, and like different spreadsheets for different products, tracking material costs and time spent, and like really just trying to refine Like I think I have the products and I have the business and I have the clients, but I don't have the business yet, if that makes sense. Like I have the business as in the stuff coming in asking me to do work for them, but I don't have the business itself. I don't have the real like numbers that qualify everything and are taking me from the 1 person to the 2 and 3 and 4 and scaling this. Like, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to build a huge business, but I want to build a small business with a few people. And so now I'm really digging into that and trying to create policy and procedure and all of that. So pre-Excel, otherwise known as Google Sheets.
There we go.
It's a great tool.
It is. Man, I just have to say, spreadsheets, you really get in what you really get out what you put in.
Yeah,
you can make some
levels.
incredible spreadsheets.
I get lost in spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll get way too over complex in what I'm trying to do in spreadsheets just to make it look good and nice, and it's just it's an art form in itself. It's weird.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a new outlet for me, and it's taking a lot of my time, and I'm loving it.
I'm not adept whatsoever. I'm a beginner spreadsheet user at best, but I know my dad is like he's a spreadsheet wizard.
Yeah.
For sure. Like he does spreadsheets for absolutely everything. So I'm sure he knows most of the ins and outs. He could probably make anything happen. But I admire people that can use them. I have no clue.
It's a high skill ceiling. It's a high skill
It's a
ceiling.
high ceiling for sure. So what's a piece of advice that you would share with a younger version of yourself or someone that was similar to you that is similar?
It's interesting. Like I have thought about this a lot, obviously, because back to what we were talking about, people don't want to hear things. And so how do you talk about it? How do you give somebody advice that they're actually going to follow? Because like God knows I haven't followed anybody's advice ever. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I would say there are so many things stacked against you, and there are so many reasons not to do something, and they're all very good reasons, and you might encounter those reasons every day, and people might point them out to you, and you might just like think there is no possible chance that this is a good idea. But if there's just a little scratch in your brain that is saying, but you should still do it, then you should still do it. And you should see all of those terrible things and reasons not to do it as just challenges to overcome, and just be at peace with being repeatedly beat down and broken, because that's how you do it. And every time you get back up is like the best day. Like I have the highest highs and the lowest lows, and I'm okay with that.
Big lows.
Big lows.
I had to.
Got the tagline in and everything.
But no, that was really well said, and it just kind of reminded me of something. Just like there are very good reasons to not do something, but at the end of the day, you either have reasons or you have results.
Exactly.
And I've heard that in terms of it's a lot of comedian podcasts that I listen to throughout the day. I don't know why. I like to spend time in creative brains. But they're like, what advice would you have for a comedian? Don't.
Yeah.
and then that's followed up with, because the ones that are going to do it anyways are the ones that are going to succeed. And so that's exactly along the lines of what you said. It's like, it's the people that are willing to show up every day, show up to the shop, put in the work. And it's like, there's going to be those down times where nobody cares what you're doing, or like nobody's buying that product. But it's like, keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep trying to find those people to come in. And it's like, and eventually you'll either do better than what you're currently doing, or you'll hopefully get to a point where you're successful in whatever way that is. But it's like, just keep going at it.
I like that a lot. Don't. Because the idea is, I mean, if somebody's going to listen to my advice and not do it, then they probably shouldn't do it. But if they're going to ignore my advice not to do it, then they're the right person to do it.
Yeah. And so I think it's actually one of the biggest things is getting in touch with that inner voice that's like, go this place, try this thing, leave the ego at the door and put one foot in front of the other, because it's like it's always unknown until it's known. It's a person that's willing to walk into the forest and deal with that unknown is the person that can like find their way or succeed. That's something that I read I'm listening to I always say read and then I'm like, it's an audiobook, so it doesn't count as reading.
Yeah, you're reading.
But it was in Circe, so Madeline Miller's book about the Greek goddess, or sorry, I guess she's a nymph named Circe. But
Circe.
there's been some quotes that came up like that, and I had to write that one down, is just walking into the forest and dealing with the unknown. But I'm trying to get back on target, because I was like, I wanted to shout out, because it's literally the best audiobook I've listened to, and the woman that narrates it is like, it's like an English, maybe a touch of Irish voice, and it's like very peaceful to have throughout the day.
What book is this?
Circe.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I forget how I got on this tangent. Nailed it. If you were an animal, would you be a woodchuck? But I'm just kidding. But seriously, back to the spirit chair. What would be your spirit animal?
Only because I was at the Banff International Film Festival in February, and there was this awesome small movie about this woman and her beavers.
How did I know you were going to say this, too?
Did you see that?
No.
Okay.
Just the beavers part.
Yeah, so just briefly, there was this short film where this hairdresser lady, I guess, found out that beavers are super facilitative?
Maybe?
Towards life, and they create, marshland and like manipulate the ecosystem to allow for all kinds of life. And they often get stuck in cities where there is no ecosystems to alter. And she found this problem where nobody would be dealing with these beavers, and they would be very useful if she transported them. And so this hairdresser spends 2 months of every year now, and she's built a crew, and she's got a bunch of cages, and she transports beavers out of cities into the wilderness and aids with all of that. And I just like the idea that the beaver is one of those like keystone animals that sort of greases the wheels of the world, if you will.
I've never thought about it that way, but they do manipulate the entire ecosystem around them. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, there's not a lot of other animals save us that truly do that.
They can divert water, they can divert huge amounts of water with their dams, right?
It's really insane. Like, there are thousands of creatures on all different levels that benefit from what beavers do. And not to say that I'm doing that, but I want to do that.
Do you feel like that a little bit, being in terms of being in a city and like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you're saying the beavers in the cities and then like being transported into the wilderness to build something effective for the world, like, do you feel like that's almost your purpose, is like building these, like doing woodworking to like change the ecosystem and infrastructure? I thought there was a juxtaposition.
Yeah, actually, like I as humbly as I possibly can be, I'm really trying to use product design to make a change in the world and how we view products. And obviously that is a huge load on anybody's back, and it's a huge problem that, millions of people are trying to solve. But I'm one of them.
Yeah, and I think that's the mission of, like, I would say with this podcast, it's like, that's the mission, is to make a positive difference in people's lives, in the community, and, and share stories of people that are doing similar things too.
Right.
Because it's like, there is this community of people, I think we've talked about it, or it's been mentioned in this podcast, not last podcast, not one podcast ago, but during this podcast.
During this current calendar podcast.
This current calendar podcast, where, oh God, I lost my train of thought. I needed to throw that in one more time. But it's just, there are those people, that community of people that are trying to make this difference. And that are, like, more and more people are trying to do this. And I don't want to say the right way, because who knows what the right way is. But it's like, there are creative types, people imagining the world differently, trying to come up with sustainable solutions, trying to be more considered and think about things, whether it's social media or design or podcasting, whatever it is, in a new way. So it's like, let's have these conversations. Let's put that out into the world. And so it's like any difference that people can make is a great difference.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's to one person or it's to the world, it matters.
Yeah.
And I think I have to believe in that, or else I'd like lose a little bit of faith, right?
Yeah.
And that dwindles from time to time, but I like to like return to that and know that what we're doing matters, what you're doing matters, what people that we've had on the podcast are doing matters, and people out there matter too. And what they're doing matters.
People matter.
People matter. Hey, hashtag
Matter
people
matters?
matter. How would you like to be remembered as a person and a designer in how you lived life?
Ooh. Considerably. Considerably?
Considerably remembered?
Somebody who lived considerably and considered things and just tried to find as many things that they could fix and did their best effort to fix those things that they could fix. And yeah, I think I would leave it short and sweet like that.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Fix It. Yeah, no, that's like
it would be amazing to create a big business, not a big business, but a business that has touched a lot of people in terms of how they think about material goods. And if my logo is on a slightly larger building one day that is shipping things all around the world that help people to frame their existence a little bit more considerably, that would be nice. So hopefully that happens, and check in every few podcasts and see how it's going.
Yeah, a few podcasts. I love that. Yeah, we're all fixers in a way, right? Like we try and fix ourselves, we try and fix others, and it's like there's something in that is connecting about this world. It's like we're still human and we still live in this form for at least the next little bit, at least.
Yeah.
So we might as well, and that's what bonds us, right? It's like our struggles, and maybe we can help somebody, maybe they can help us, maybe we can fix certain issues in either the world or like even the community or even at home, like whatever it is. It's like that's somehow part of the mission of humans. I don't know how to put that in like grandiose terms and how that matters on a like crazy level, but it's like, no, what you do matters, what we fix matters, and what we put out in the world. I like to think of it as energy put out into the world matters. It's like that manifests in different ways, and it's like that's sort of the legacy. That's what you leave behind, is that energy.
That's a nice thought. This is making me think about how most of the podcasts that we listen to are talking to people in their 30s and 40s and 50s who are like established and have done things and have things to say about like the real work that has actually already happened and impacted a lot of people. And I'm not saying that I'm for sure going to be one of those people, but like your whole podcast is talking to all these people who are probably going to do that. And it'll be interesting to listen to the podcast through the years if you keep doing it and it grows as you start talking to people who have really done things and they're halfway through their career and they, like right now, it's like you're talking to people at the beginning.
Yeah. And I think similarly, we feel at the beginning in a certain sense where we just celebrated our year anniversary 2 days after the fact, but it was one of those like, well, we've made it a year. We came out with 30 episodes. We more weeks than not we had episodes, which is some kind of accomplishment.
Yeah.
But I think that is something that I've even thought of and believe in. It's like, and not every podcast is perfect, and not like maybe it doesn't turn out or you don't like talk or get the stories or things out that you want. But it's like every once in a while you're like, no, this is why we do this. This is why we're sharing stories. This is something that matters to get out there. It's like I don't know if 100 people or 1,000 or 1,000,000 are going to listen to it. Like, who knows? It's kind of cool. Like,
but it will be, I like what you're saying. It will be interesting come like even say like a decade from now, fast forward to that, we get you on for the 10th cycle podcast.
I don't know, it's 10-month things, so that'll be like the 12th or something.
Yeah. See where you're at and where we're at in comparison to that. And it would be, I find that super fast. I actually never thought about that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's cool to just be on this process, but I actually want and hope to like grow the community of people that have came on this podcast and that have shared these discussions and find ways that we can like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like support each other, and maybe there's creative endeavors that stem from it. Whatever happens kind of happens, but bring these people in that we truly believe are going to make a change and a positive one at that, and are in the midst of doing that. But it is cool. Like that's what I think we don't want to lose is like, maybe it'll shift as we do like grow in this process and time passes. But it's like, I think our focus is on the people that are sort of in the beginning of the stages and that have dared to start something or do something different or build something new. And it's like, it's really cool to be one of, in my estimation, the only podcasts that do that. So
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'll pat myself on the back and Jayse on the back for that
I can't
one.
reach that far.
This bad shoulder mobility. We got to shift that. But and to conclude, where can we keep up to date with Brent Biglow and Biglow Woodcraft? And is there anything you'd like to share with listeners or viewers in regards to websites, one-in interruptions, social media, or upcoming projects? I know that was a lot of things.
Yes.
Just say some stuff.
My Instagram is the best place to keep up with me. I post there very sparingly,
Yep.
but regularly, every couple of weeks. Biglow Woodcraft, all one word, no E. And I mean, I have Facebook again. I don't know.
We
Don't
feel
bother.
the same.
And my website is biglowwoodcraft.com. There is a biannual update that you can go there and sign up for.
I signed up yesterday.
Congratulations. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. So biannual updates, podcasts are 10 months.
Yeah. I just, it's hard to want to contribute to such a crazy world full of stuff in a digital way, right? So the Instagram has me there every once in a while. Biglow Woodcraft.
Cool. And you got the website out too?
Yeah.
Biglowwoodcraft.com.
/shop is really where you want to go.
Yeah.
But there's a few spots on there that I think
Get that
are
slot block.
pretty good.
Get that slot block mini. Get the charcuterie board. Or maybe a custom table or one of those beautiful coffee tables.
Gravity bar. The gravity bar is going through a reiteration right now, or
Gravity bar 2.0.
An iteration, I guess. Yeah, there's a 2.0 of that. There's a common board coming out soon, which is
Is that
my
like the
take.
Rapper Common comes out?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a laser etched wall hanging of the Rapper Common.
Count me in.
That was so bad, but I still laughed.
I don't mean to poke fun.
There's some good stuff. We've got two big fine custom furniture projects in the works right now too. So the photo shoots for those will probably be the end of this month or the beginning of next. And lots of exciting work to show off soon.
Awesome. So check it out there, people. Brent, I wanted to thank you for coming on and being my amateur psychologist and sharing in these discussions of the woes of being a creative type, but also like being able to, talk every once in a while and just like share in this process of being creative and getting your perspective, which I always really enjoy because I've always found you to be super unique and creative and also genuine. And those are all things that I admire and like in people and believe in people. So that's why we're going to continue having you back
Yeah.
podcasts
Or-
from now. And
One calendar cycle later, we'll get you back on.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And we always look forward to having you on too.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
thank
sure.
you.
It's always
I
a
look
pleasure.
forward to this.
All right. So as always, we're Be The Change. You can catch us on social media at Be The Change YPS. What's that? Oh, just Brent's sitting a little bit lower now, just slowly going down the elevator. We have a trap door there for guests we don't like. If you, we've never had to use it yet, but it's there. Yes, Be The Change YPS on Instagram, Facebook. Email us at info@bethechangeYPS.com. Won't even tell you about that old one anymore, but if you found it, I would still maybe answer it. Yeah, and always let us know if you have guest ideas, want us to cover something on the podcast, or have anything for us at all. Let us know there on our either our website. We do have a comment page, so check that out at bethechangeYPS.com. So basically the same thing on all fronts. Just type it in. Hopefully you'll find us. Yes, and as always, we're on YouTube and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and like our videos there. So thank you for tuning in, people, and fix it.
Fix it. Ciao.